Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to the Cheeseman Podcast. My name is John, and I definitely pressed the wrong video at the start there. I don't know if you saw it or not. We had the match from 1990. Anyway, we're here. What a quiet week it's been. Nothing's happened, has it?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. I mean, we beat the champions. We got a new record goal scorer. Our World Cup winning centre-back got sent off. A couple of days later, our captain was out for up to 2 months. Our manager returned from the club after an operation. A Daniel Levy documentary was released on BT Sport. Then our standing coach said that everyone apart from Lloris was fit, only to find out Bissouma's got a stress fracture in his ankle. And then today the accounts have been released. Apart from that, it's been a lovely, lovely, quiet week. And talking of someone who was desperate to talk about the accounts, good evening, HG.
Like, weirdly enough, usually I would be. I'd be okay with it. I had a lot on my plate this week. And so when you said that nothing had happened, I was like, well, yeah, nothing's happened. Because I barely followed Spurs this week at all. And then you mentioned all those things I'd heard a little bit about. I was like, oh yeah, that was this week. But I'm good. It's good to be.
I mean, you are normally much more vocal on what... Yeah, you are normally much more vocal on WhatsApp when you're at work. But you've been at home and we are seeing the fruits of a lovely new kitchen behind you, aren't we?
Yes, exactly. It's a long story. We put a new kitchen in, which is what's behind me. It came in yesterday. I feel like I won the lottery a little bit. Yesterday's shocked that this was suddenly our house, and now it's like, okay, this is our house. What am I going to do with it? Other things? I think like service will be resumed in a few weeks. Back in my corner with the stuff behind me, but for now,
Well, Mike is dropping out a little bit occasionally, okay. HG. Sounds like you're in a cave. Yeah. We must mention the boss man. There he is. Oh, not that one. He can't be heard. He's apparently in his deathbed, so he says. I think he's just bunking off school. He's just bunking off school, isn't he? Good evening, King Hoddle. HG, sat in a different place. I don't like change. Oh, sad times. Anyway, we'll move on. JP, down in Melbourne. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's been an uneventful week, as you've already said. So we can probably just leave it here, right, and walk away. But no, I'm excited to wake up and chat all things Spurs and probably more developments that have happened overnight that I'll have no clue about. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I had to bodge a cover photo while JP was asleep, and it's what time is it? 8 a.m.
8 a.m. here. Yeah.
You've already changed it because it was terrible. So well done for that. And as Davo likes to say, our Paul Collingwood lookalike, all the way from the States. Jack, good evening.
Evening to you three. Good to be back. What I would say is on the timing of the release of the Supporters Trust answers, I was a little bit annoyed because I remember it was like released around like 9 p.m. your guys' time, which just felt like a little too late in the day. And then it kind of felt like the same way with the financial annual reports today kind of being released. Like, why would you release them on a Friday of all days? Like, who really wants to go through these on a Friday? So, yeah. But here we are, ready to go through them.
So, we are going to start. I did start writing the run sheet last night all about Leicester, but we are going to have to discuss the accounts. We will be having an in-depth show, most likely on Wednesday night, with our accountant, Mr. Diver. He was hoping to be on tonight, but got called away for some work business. And we couldn't do any earlier because he's off to Milan Monday and Tuesday, the show off. So, yeah, they'll be having a good read of the accounts. Caller, Diver, and a couple of others will be joining to go through the accounts at full depth. But we'll look at the headlines tonight, I think. So
could we not get Diver to do a show? Get Diver show, sip coffee out Italian cafe as if he's Jefferson, going over the accounts. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Like Football Italia back in the day, yeah. They love the sport, yeah. Reading the newspapers. So, Spurs have announced their annual financial results for the year ending June 2022. The first full season since the COVID-19 pandemic restricted fans from attending matches, with total revenue increasing 22.7% to £440 million from £62 million in 2021. Daniel Levy said the landscape of the Premier League has changed significantly in the last decade. It's understandable that some fans call for more spending. Have any of you noticed that? I've not noticed much of that at all.
It's been quite quiet, hasn't it?
Yes, we
I think most of us are quite comfortable with kind of running a balanced balance sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Much of which would be unsustainable for many clubs. We are competing in a league in which we have seen increased sovereign wealth ownership and consortia finance, and in a league where spending power is now vested in the hands of the few who dominate and have the ability to distort. So I can't actually see the word, the market. It's because there's a little box in front of it on my screen. We have felt and continue to feel the financial impact of supporting player purchases which have not worked out as planned. Ndombele, Lo Celso. We have taken steps to improve the area of the operation, and we believe that the recent transfer window will reflect this. The average maturity of our borrowings, 850 million, is just over 20 years, some of which will stretch until 2051, ensuring limited impact on the club's ability to invest in playing squad. As with prior years, no dividends have been taken. Oh, we'll come back to that. So, I think the first thing, I think you're right, Jack. It's strange timing for me that what I haven't mentioned is obviously we've produced a £50 million loss on the profit and loss sheet. And it seems strange timing that given there was a lot of pressure to spend in January, everyone assumed there was going to be a big profit shown in these accounts. Why have they waited 10 days after the transfer window closed to actually announce this?
I don't know if I can give a perfect explanation for why they've delayed it, other than maybe just with kind of all the pressure that was on them during that January period, it did seem like they were rather, instead of just kind of satisfy everybody and make everybody happy by releasing the reports, they kind of would rather do the opposite and just sort of, make themselves more comfortable with whatever seemed more convenient to them. I can't even give a good answer as to why, whatever reason they might have seen as to why it was better to release the reports so late. It also, I thought we were even promised that they would be released even sooner. It felt like kind of after the January window shut. I kind of thought it would be released kind of around the same time that the Supporters Trust, was given their answers, but they even waited, it felt like a little while between even the release of this and even the release of their answers to the Supporters Trust. And of course, we'll get onto this later, but they even copy and pasted like a few lines from their answers of the Supporters Trust to this financial statement. So I can't even give a good answer, I'll be honest, John. So I might kind of strike out on this first question here, because I can't see a good answer for why they maybe delayed it, other than they might have just saw it as, maybe a good way to stick it to us. I don't really know.
There's a perfectly good answer, Jack. And the answer is Daniel Levy never wanted to release it in the first place.
Well, he has to release them every year.
His plan has always been, with the exception of a couple of COVID years, release it at the last possible minute.
Yeah.
Which he's always done, except for the COVID years, where it kind of made sense to get it out there earlier because fans want to know how much they're losing. I also think Daniel Levy looks at a £50 million loss, and that's actually a personal insult to him. That, his whole thing is, let's build the club, right? So I think he's gone, I'll wait until the very last minute to share this, financial results. And then he's seen all the fan pressure and gone out, I'll just release it a little bit earlier. There's no plan behind it. They're just reacting to things.
I think even the other part, too, that I found funny was, like, the fact that they released the statements on a Friday, like I said, kind of, on a day that no one wants to really, dig through this. And then another part, too, is when I went to the website, it felt like they released, 6 other news stories at the same time, as well. The financial statements were, already, within, 10 minutes were, all the way down at the bottom of the page. So that also felt maybe slightly intentional. So I don't know. That's all I can add to it as well.
But hang on a second. I feel like we're missing something here. If there was a loss of $1 billion, I don't want to say if, we've seen there is 15 million, then why on earth was this not done during January? Why are we talking about how long it took in February? We're all sitting here thinking that we didn't want to, the club didn't want to say how much profit we had because we were trying to do deals, when we didn't have money to do, it just feels a bit weird.
I can answer that, Jay.
Go on.
HJ, I can answer that basically because it's not all about profit and loss. It's the balance sheet. And this is something Steve Divers told me. We've got over £200 million on our balance sheet. So if other clubs see that, obviously that was in June. It could be different now. It probably is different now. They see you've got a big load of cash. we're going to want a chunk of that up front. And in negotiations, they're going to say, look, the Porro deal being a prime example, where supposedly they wanted the whole lot up front at the beginning of the window. And they'll say, we know you've got the cash in the bank because we can see it in your accounts. That's probably why.
Okay.
But I do find it baffling that, given the pressure on the club to spend, why has it taken so long to come out? I've got some headlines. So revenue for go on.
It's been 9 days. It's been 9. Is that really considered a long time? Were people really on the edge of their seats waiting 9 days for a set of numbers to come out? Like, I'm sorry, like they said it was going to come up in February. It's February. Like, you know, had it been February the 28th, I'd have been like, oh, hang on a second, they've waited and waited and waited. But I mean, that was never an issue. It took 9 days. Okay. They released it on a Friday.
I'm going to struggle to interpret them in the first place anyway, so it's not like eager to...
I genuinely reckon they fully intended on releasing it February 28th. And then they've gone, this could help. Let's get it out a little bit earlier. And they've taken them 9 days to proofread. And that's about it.
These would have been signed off months ago, these accounts.
Yeah, I thought Ali Gold said that they've been kind of like crossing T's and, you know, dotting I's for like a few months now, you know.
They would have been done a while ago, yeah. There's no doubt about that. So revenue 444 million, match day ticket receipts 106 million compared to 1.9 million previous year, because obviously we only had 2 games with fans in. Conference League brought in a whopping 10 million pounds compared to 23 we got in the Europa League the year before. Obviously Champions League, I'm not sure the figures. I'm sure caller can comment in the chat. Could be 50 or 60 million easily. So it's really key that we've got back in the Champions League for this year. TV and media revenues decreased.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently I haven't got the figure of that.
That's because last year it had the Project Restart games included.
Yeah, all the games.
Yeah. So last year's figure was for like what, you know, let's say 46 games total, 47, whatever. But that's why it's interesting when they talk about it being a 20% increase in revenue. In theory, it's more than that. You know, the revenue included all those games that what aren't in a normal. So it's interesting, but sorry, go on.
That's right. Sponsorship went up from 114 million to 126 million, partially down to the Dier sponsorship, where the little thing goes at the top of the training videos, doesn't it? It goes across the screen. Other revenue, which is the NFL, the rugby, the concerts, went from 15 million to just under 32 million. Now, if you look at that goes a big way to paying for the interest on the debt we currently have, which is 850 million, which the debt, I believe caller told me earlier, was costing around 23 million a year, just the interest alone. So that pays it off with a little bit left over. Operating expenses increased from 340 million to 403 million. Profit from operations 112 million.
You're having to pay matchday staff, right? So that's why that number's gone up.
Yeah.
You weren't having to pay that before.
Yeah. Profit operations went from 97 million to 112 million. The highest paid director, I think we know who this is. His salary went from just under 2.7 million to 3.26 million, an increase of £567,000. So we're going to assume, well, my assumption is possibly, is our chairman paid based on the team's performance? And we got 4th last year, HG. Do you think?
Yeah, champion bonus. Why not for Daniel? I mean, the thing is, if he's responsible for everything or to blame for everything, then I mean, like this is it. Like, I don't really care if it's 2.3.2. Like, I genuinely don't. All I care about is that if they're getting 440 million and he's taking less than 1% for himself, and it's less than Bryan Hill and it's less than Ben Davies, I'm sorry. Like, okay, it's not a big thing for me at all.
Jack, is Gil Messi worth it? Is he worth more than Levy?
I feel like they should be on similar wages. Yeah, I agree. Perhaps in explanation to that, I don't really, again, have a great explanation for this, but maybe post-pandemic, like once he really saw, like it feels weird to say still, but like it feels like we are kind of really post-pandemic, post-COVID, like to a large extent around the world. And with that now, I think comes more realistic like profit margins and more realistic revenue streams that they had anticipated like in 2019 and whatnot when they were opening the stadium. So it feels like Daniel Levy has been waiting for this like to finally happen, where he can finally see, you know, some of the benefits of the stadium with NFL, Beyonce, whatever it is that, you know, he can earn as a revenue stream. And it feels like he's been kind of waiting a long time for that to happen, and perhaps he's kind of given himself a little bit of a present maybe for it. That's how I kind of see it, John. You know, maybe now that he's starting to see all the revenue streams starting to come to fruition, he's given himself a little bit of a pat on the back of 500,000 worth.
I think, well, callers answered it here. Levy's wages indeed performance related, but performance financially of the business, and no doubt on the pitch. Bonuses make up a huge chunk of exec pay. I think bonuses make up a huge chunk of everyone's pay, the players particularly. That's always been well known that Spurs have worked that model. So cash in hand on the balance sheet has gone from 147 million last year to 226 million, an increase of 79 million. I would guess that the 100 million that Enic paid in, because they haven't paid the 50 in yet. Apparently, they have said they're going to pay that in this year. Has gone towards that.
How exactly, if Daniel Levy's bonuses are related to financial performance, does he make a loss and then get a financial bonus?
Maybe they budgeted a bigger loss. Maybe they budgeted a bigger loss. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Anyway,
I want to care, but I don't. I mean, it seems like I understand it's important because of the way that the club is run, right? And that you know, everything that we spend come into the club at some point. I'm interested to know why we've put an extra 79 million in cash. When I mean, are we planning to the stadium for someone else? Like that's a bit weird for me. But really, that's about it. If there's money in the business and we don't have a stadium to build, what is the money there for? That would be my one question. But otherwise, I mean, it's great that the money's there. I just hope my main concern is that we spend it well.
HG, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I kind of have had a similar reaction where, like, I agree with what you said earlier, or what was said before was, like, I was kind of dreading the release of it. Like, I wasn't really looking forward to the date it was. And then when it was released, I haven't actually seen, I'll be honest, like, from the people who maybe would know a thing or two about how to interpret this, I haven't actually seen them come out and say, like, oh, this is, you know, just what everybody had predicted, you know, like hundreds of millions being hidden away, you know, from the fan base. It doesn't seem to be that sort of conclusion by the looks of things. And then I'm just kind of left, well, if that isn't the case, that, you know, they're hiding away the hundreds of millions that they've been accused of, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but then I am kind of left like a little like how much do I really care, you know? And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of how I felt about it. Once I was kind of reassured by some people that maybe it wasn't as egregious of hiding away of millions like some people had accused them of, I kind of was left a little like, I don't really know, you know, what else to think then. So.
I just want to respond to this, Adrian. The accounts are out. They are on the Spurs website. HG managed to find them earlier on his Inspector Clouseau investigating. So for that.
Someone else. I'm in another WhatsApp group and someone shared it there. Sorry, that's about it. I forwarded it on.
Okay.
I didn't even look.
Well,
at
it was handy anyway. Yeah. Had to have a quick look when I got home from work. I haven't managed to do that much prep, unfortunately, but that's why Wednesday, we'll have a much more in-depth answer. Shall we move on to the other thing discussed in there? That's the wrong slide. The transfers and how the fact we've been crap, basically, at recruiting in recent years, but we've addressed it, HG, with a man that's about to be suspended.
I mean, the thing is, it's not even that. If you look at those players, look, I don't think any of them are particularly bad players, but for whatever reason, managers have said thanks but no thanks, right? And look at Ndombele. I mean, Mourinho used Ndombele. For that one full season he was in charge, Ndombele played a lot of games that year. So it just feels like it's bad now because the current manager isn't using them. But if Ndombele was still around, or if Reguilon was still around, like, you know, we would have had space for both of those players in the squad this year. We could have done that easily. So it's like, I get that they're bad purchases because they're not playing for Spurs, but that's down to the managerial choice. There may well have been a manager who would have played them. I don't. It's good that we're now, you know, picking the players that we've bought recently, But the only reason we didn't do it is because the manager currently doesn't want them. That's it.
I think that comes down as well to probably the most disappointing part of the response to the trust was when they talked about like what's the strategy, what's the strategic direction. None of it was about having a football identity or a football strategic direction. It was all about like the strategic direction of how we're going to build the business. And when you don't have that, you're going to make decisions like this where Ndombele's, Poch wanted him. Jose decided after a period of time that he could use him, but the managers that have followed have not fancied him at all. So you're going to end up with situations where record signings aren't going to play because you don't have an idea of what style of play you're going to play.
Yeah, we will never know what Poch wanted to do with Ndombele. You can look at how we played the season before Poch got sacked, where it was kind of a 4-3-3, and we saw the Champions League final was Winks, Sissoko, and Eriksen. Like, where is Ndombele going to fit in there? Clearly, he was going to fit one of those spots, but you'd imagine that so was Lascelles. So like, it's weird to imagine what exactly Poch was going to do, but then Sessegnon was also one of them, and he's playing quite regularly now. To me, Ndombele isn't a bad player, and but like many players in world football, they need a system that works for them. And like we can talk till the cows come about whether Ndombele can be bothered, and perhaps he can't be bothered compared to some. But the talent is clearly there, and if you get him playing, and if he enjoys playing, and like maybe the language was an issue, like obviously now he's in Italy, French to Italian is a bit more similar than English. All of those things would play a role too, but I guess those are those things that you figure out before you sign them, right? Like if Ndombele's got zero English before he comes over, and you're going to give him 200 grand a week, you are asking for trouble. It's a risk that doesn't need to be taken, despite he's a really good player. And I think maybe Spurs will have learned from that from now on.
I think the other thing with this as well is, I think as fans, we love talking amortization when it comes to buying players and going, it's not that much really, you're going to pay it off over 5 years. But there's 450 million euros on that sheet of players that we're still paying off. That gets amortized into current day as well. And I think we're really good at ignoring that, going like, Ndombele's done. Like, yeah, we're still paying him off, but he's done. There's 450 million euros from the last 2.5 years or 3 years or whatever that was. 2019, when's that? A long time ago, it's probably 4 years. That we're still paying off. And that's most of them are over 5-year contracts. So that's an extra 45 million a year that you've got, sorry, more than that, 80, 90 million a year that you got to pay off. It's not insignificant.
Yeah. So I just bring. Gavin was commenting on my Twitter earlier on a tweet I did on the last day of the window. I actually did a tweet saying, "Is this always spending? If these supposed huge profits that everyone was suggesting we were going to have, why have we not gone further?" And I think it's a bit more clear now that there was no big profits. But Gavin is just saying, to clarify something, the loss isn't from amortization; it's from depreciation, which is 72 million, I think. Gavin, I read earlier. It's very high compared to other clubs because of the stadium, because you have to depreciate the cost of the stadium over, depending on what it is. The stadium structure itself will be a much longer period than parts within it. Coolers just said 70 plus million. Yeah. So that's a huge thing. We're not actually paying that money. That money's in the debt effectively, but accounting terms, you have to pay it over the period, be it 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Even if we take depreciation out of it, that's what, a 20 million pound profit. Like, it's not, we're still not talking about making money here. So
no. And going forward, all we can hope is the Champions League this year. Assuming we can get past Milan, we'll get to the next stage. We'll have a fairly good pot, even if we get knocked out in the next round. That will help us moving forward and hopefully wipe out most of that loss going forward. But yeah, we have to get better at recruitment and have a plan.
Anyway, and JP, sorry, John, to interrupt, but like, I mean, you've both said it. Like, the plan seems to be better now, right? Like, and Conte's only been at the club for 18 months, but the people that he's bought are, part of the squad, are being used. I mean, obviously Spence doesn't count because he was a club signing, but you get the idea that they are doing something with a plan. And if the plan in mind is to buy them quite young and then maybe they go on again in 3-4 years, which was a Levy thing for many years, the hope is they won't want to. But I still think that, if an offer came in for Romero in the next 18 months, he may want to go. If it's a bigger club than Spurs, he may want it. And that's where we are. Until we start winning things, our better players are going to be wanted by clubs with with more money or a bigger name or whatever. And we have to deal with that. So it does still make sense to continue to go for these 23, 24-year-olds that maybe they do think in their minds they have another move left. And hopefully, we saw with Eriksen. Eriksen did 6.5 years at Spurs. But we progressed each year. So yes, at some point he wanted to go, but he was already 27, 28 by that point. He'd spent a large chunk of his career at Spurs, and we'd got better. The idea that we're going to, because we're now the 10th biggest spenders, we're going to go out and buy someone like Skriniar who's 27, 28, got one big move left. It's just not going to happen. I genuinely believe that. I don't think it will happen for Spurs. So the idea is you get those players, you can build the team, you have a philosophy that JP talked about, and we are there. And if Conte has that philosophy, then brilliant. But the question is still how committed he is. But in theory, we're following the plan that should be followed.
Yeah. The thing is, when it comes to player spending and when do we go after those 27, 28 million pound players? Sorry, 27, 28 year old players, not million pound. We do a lot of 27, 28 million pounds. Is that once we've kind of backwashed all of that kind of bad transfer dealing you've got, the money's there to go and do that. So I think in the next kind of 2-3 years, we might start seeing a little more of that if we can get kind of the base of the current squad competing at a level that is competing for championships and trophies.
Yeah. Okay. There's about 120 people watching and only 27 likes, which is not a great ratio. And I'm surprised Caller's not on our back already. So come on, guys, please click the like button for us. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us out loads. Right. I just one more, just last one about transfers, guys. Sky put this up. Net transfer spend since 1819. And we are fourth on that list. What surprised me, and I guess when I think about it, not so much, is that Manchester City aren't in the top 12. HG. Is that, as Caller suggested, they've been written off already by breaking the rules? They've been deleted.
If only. No, it's because they sell. I mean, you think about the players they sold Gabriel Jesus, and they sold Zinchenko. And maybe one or two others went to Southampton. So it's
Bissouma.
Yes, they went and spent money on Haaland and maybe one other, but it tends to be just one purchase a year for them. Like Grealish came in the summer before. Haaland was the main man this year, because I think this now, they are aging. There will be a year soon where they'll go out and spend a lot of money to refresh. Gundogan's going to go. De Bruyne's over 30, so it's going to happen. But yeah, if you're able to sell your unwanteds for good money, then of course you can not be on that chart. I guess it's annoying, but that they bought well, and the ones that didn't work out, they managed to shift before COVID happened.
It's a sad state of football where Wolves is spending more than Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think the saddest state of football, and what proved the almighty power of the Premier League money and the Premier League dollar, or whatever you would call it at this moment in time, was when Keylor Navas, a former Champions League winner and Real Madrid player, PSG goalkeeper, moved to Nottingham Forest of all teams. That just really showed to me that this, is, and also what is it? Well, Felipe from Atletico Madrid, at 34 years old, has moved there. It's just, I don't know, the power of the Premier League and the sway of the Premier League's money as well as, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they get a chance to play, which maybe, certainly in Keylor Navas's, he probably just wants to play more than anything else. Sitting on the bench at PSG until Donnarumma leaves, he's never going to go there. So I get it, but yeah, the fact is that
the fact that Forest can't afford his wages.
Yeah, exactly. Every single Premier League team can pay this. Even the worst team in the league, even if someone like Bournemouth, they were willing to spend 30 million on Zaniolo, and he was willing to go at some point. Which, again, you can't imagine, you can't believe to be true, but it's all about finances. Those European clubs, outside of Bayern and Real Madrid and the really, really big ones, most European clubs need the Premier League money. They need to sell to us to survive themselves. So it distorts things, but it does. It's not as if we're hoarding it for ourselves and just kind of spending the money between ourselves. We're helping European football out by going out and spending big money on. I mean, what did Chelsea spend? Do you know what I mean? Like Chelsea have basically financed half of Europe.
Yeah, and only time will tell with Chelsea if their business plan will work or not. They seem very confident they're going to spend this for 2 years and then not be spending, or they'll be selling players to continuously pay off the amortization effectively. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, but only time will tell.
You have to feel for Fulham, who have also joined this list, but they've just been going down, up and down, up and down, up and down this whole time until this season, spending that amount of money, which is quite funny. So the parachute payments also as well, this even alludes to the parachute payments of the Premier League must be ginormous, like, the fact that Fulham have been able to, just go up and down and spend in the way that they have as well.
The only crazy thing to think about here is, like, and we talk about how badly we've spent all the time. I don't want to harp on about that. But £424 million in net spend, how much of that is still in the squad? We're only talking about over the last 4 years. Like, not a lot of that is still in the squad, which is
if you go back to the last slide, look at all of the...
there's the lower ends.
Or all the transfers from that other slide. I think the majority of the players that are no longer here... of course, like the Paratici signings are more recent, but like look at 1920, like all of those guys are gone or should be gone in the case of Sessegnon. And then I know Davo, if he is listening, the other Dave Harris, this is kind of why I get on Steve Hitchens' back like a bit more, is because I do kind of look at Steve Hitchens' like hit record, and the guy misses a lot more than he ever hits, I think, and that is very much resemblance in the 1920 season. And as much as I was a bit of a Sergio Reguilon fan, that also, I guess is, turning out to be a loss now for us if he's no longer wanted. But he is maybe a good case, I would say, Sergio Reguilon, of what HG kind of spoke about in the very beginning, of like a player that maybe is a good player, just maybe got, put at the wrong end of the stick because of whatever manager or something, but actually is a good player at the end of the day. But still, the money wasted, as you can see, from 1920, 18-19, and then as well as 2021 under that Hitchen era. Sometimes why I get, a little. I feel like this is why maybe he should deserve a bit more of the blame for the money wasted.
Yeah,
because none of those players, like JP alluded to, none of those players are even on the pitch anymore. Like they're just gone or elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Just going to move that so I can see them. There we go. So, shall we move on? Shall we discuss Leicester? So, tomorrow, 3:00, which means I'm the only one of the four of us that can't watch it live on TV legally because of bloody archaic, stupid rules in this country where I can't watch every game, and B, because it's at 3:00 on Saturday, I cannot watch it. It's against the law. Time to move on with the world, the UK. If I want to go and watch Bognor Regis Town, I'll go and watch them. I'm not going to watch them. Fact. Anyway, so Leicester sit 14th in the Premier League, just 3 points above the relegation zone. They've only taken 4 points from 6 games since the World Cup. However, those 4 points have come in the last 2 games, a draw against Brighton and a 4-2 win at Aston Villa, which I have to say surprised me given their manager, HG. Villa's new manager.
I was going to say, are we blaming Rodgers or are we blaming Emery?
That was a bizarre win, though, for Leicester. I didn't expect that.
I feel like Leicester are one of those... Leicester remind me of 90s Spurs, where they really could go and beat anyone and get a result anywhere, but their defence is crap, and so they'll concede a load. They're still playing central midfielders in defence. I don't know why they do so. It's not as if they don't have players. They've got, like, Vestergaard is still a Premier League proven player, and yet he doesn't get anywhere near the squad. And you've got to look at Rodgers for that. But I think that Leicester could outscore pretty much anyone if they really want to. But if you attack them, you will almost certainly outscore them. And I think that's what we have to focus on.
HG, a message from caller. Apparently you are quieter than the rest of us. Can you turn your mic up a little bit if possible?
Okay. Yeah.
Sound okay to me, but he says that you do sound quieter. They have also won both the FA Cup ties, so they've managed to give us a little bit of form. They're playing 4-2-3-1, bit old school, bit Pochettino-esque, isn't it? I guess. And they've got the guy Tete, who's playing the right wing, Maddison playing it, and Iheanacho, I can say it now. He's playing up front. He scored last week. I think they're definitely going to be a tougher game than when we played them in September, Jack.
Yeah, I think they are probably a bit better. I think the last time we had played them was during that time period when Brendan Rodgers was being accused of wanting to be sacked. So that was, maybe easier games for us than it is maybe now. I imagine that he's probably just faced his prison sentence with Leicester City and is just riding out the rest of the season as best he can. And that also maybe explains like how they've been so kind of in and out. Like they get good wins and then they'll like lose to Forest, kind of like us, to a degree, unexpectedly. And so you don't really know, I feel like, what you're going to get from Leicester this season. I would say like the addition of someone like Tete, I do think makes them a much more dangerous team, and this is maybe something they didn't have last time we played them, whereas I feel like James Maddison was always kind of forced out wide or like forced to these kind of weird positions, but now with like Tete, they can play Harvey Barnes on the left and they can play him on the right, play Iheanacho up front, and they can play James Maddison in that sort of like conventional number 10 role, like in a 4-2-3-1, and I actually think that's going to maybe probably challenge this back line a bit more. And to be fair, what I would say about this game is if you were to put any bets on, I'd put a bet on like a howler of, any kind for either defense, own goals, like you name it, because I think they have like the third worst defense in the league. We have the sixth worst defense in the league in terms of goals conceded. So you definitely could see, maybe some slips, some falls or maybe some goalkeeping mistakes or whatever it may be. So I imagine this could be a high scoring game between the two teams. But Leicester, I think, are a lot better, to answer your question, than last time we saw them, for sure.
We got the big man, Harry Suter, who will shore up that defence now a little bit as well. So,
okay. JP, Leicester have signed your centre-back, Harry Suter. Tell us about him.
It's great having another Scottish player who switched allegiances to Australia finally make it in the Premier League. Doing our bit we are over here. No, it's good. I think Harry Suter is a fantastic player. I think he was touted a long time ago to make the move up to the Premier League. He did his ACL last season. He came back and hadn't played. I think he played one competitive match before the World Cup. Started every game, played every minute of the World Cup. And was immense.
JP, you've been lucky you've been asleep all day, mate, because my God, Davo was just on it this morning.
I bet. He's raging that there wasn't a £20 million profit. Oh, well.
Well, it's all about spending on the cinema. That's all I know.
Yeah. Spending on the cinema. Where's the hotel? Can't remember what I was saying. He's excellent. He's great in the air, which you'd expect from a 6'5" central defender. But where I think he's really underrated is his ability to play out with the ball and his ability to, be agile and make blocks. He made a number of kind of last-ditch sliding tackles in the World Cup, which really saved Australia and got us through to the last 16. He's a massive threat from set pieces as well. I think in his first 5 games for Australia, he scored 6 goals from corners or something like that. Someone correct me in the stats, but it was a ludicrous amount of goals that he scored in his first few games.
Is that because you're playing against Asian sides that usually aren't the tallest?
Yeah. Chinese Taipei was there's probably a couple in there or something like that. But no, he's what 6'5", 6'6" or something, and all you have to do is lob the ball up, and he's the only one who's going to reach it. So it helps.
He's tall on any pitch. Yeah.
But that's to be said. You put him in against the Premier League, and he's still going to be, the tallest person in that box. So it's definitely a threat that they've got.
Yeah. HG, Sonny scored a hat-trick back in September. Mm-hmm. Do you think I thought against Man City, he wasn't back to his old self, but he definitely was a better performance. Do you think he's starting to turn that corner? Do you think against Leicester, who he's got a very good record against, he might get the goal?
Like, I haven't been on the show this week because of the whole kitchen thing, but to me, last week's thing against Man City, I'm sorry, it's still a red herring for me. I don't believe in anything I saw last week. Part of the reason I feel that we did so well last week is because Man City kind of played a system that that the 3-4-3 works well against. Their central midfield pairing of Rodri and Bernardo Silva screams, okay, Hojbjerg can win that one. And they played a front two, like Haaland and Alvarez against a back three. Well, we like that. The issue is when we have, just one striker that we're dealing with and the defenders don't really know whether to move forward or not. If we see Dier move forward like we did, then maybe there's something, maybe a corner has been turned. But I didn't get the impression that Man City defenders were too worried about our players receiving the ball, our attackers receiving the ball and turning, which we know is what we want to do. And most teams put Son under pressure when he gets the ball. They put Kane under pressure when he gets the ball. And City never did that. So if I see him do that against the Leicester side that are trying to make life difficult for him, then I'll be much more on the Son bandwagon. But I mean, I know we beat the champions, and I know that we deserved it in many ways. And City, were not great, but still we beat them fair and square. I need to see more of Son in a 3-4-3 system to really think he's turned the corner. And like the Leicester game would be another good opportunity. It depends if they stick with 4-2-3-1. You think that Son might find those gaps and do it. But if they do go back to a 3-centre system that they've played for a lot of the year, Son may well struggle again. I'm not convinced that the corner has been turned just yet.
I'd agree with you on the corner being turned. I think the positive signs you can take are the things Son was doing that he hasn't been able to do all season, and that's control of ball. It was sticking at his feet. He was able to turn and get around, and that's got nothing to do with how well the opposition are playing. Just things were working for him. He was picking up and driving at players, similar to what he's tried to do this season, and not overrunning the ball. So I think there's some confidence that he'll pick up from that I think is a positive sign for us moving forward. But yeah, I'll agree. I'm not taking too much out of the overall performance against City.
I agree with you though, JP. I think we're seeing less of the things that were frustrating us maybe with Sonny, and that is only a good thing. I feel like he's not giving the ball his way as much as he used to. He's not turning it over as much, nor is he holding on to it. I feel like a lot of times I felt like he was holding on to it too long. Other times it felt like he wasn't shooting it when he should. I think, just that decision making that just kept being wrong and just kept being a little bit off from Sonny is starting to look a little bit better and a bit more consistent, which is, all we can ask for. But it is happening slowly, but I think he's looking better. It's slowly, but he's looking better.
And he's such a confidence player, and I think he's had 3 okay games in a row now. And you go, okay, the last one was probably for him, probably the most important one. Even though he didn't score, it was the things he tried to do, he did. And that hasn't paid off for him all season. I think that's been the problem. He scored 3 against Leicester, and that was great. But then the next game, he couldn't touch the ball. He couldn't, trap it or do anything right. Mm-hmm. The last 3 games, things have come off for him that he's tried to do, not just scoring goals.
It feels like he hasn't been hurting us. I know it sounds harsh, but when he was playing poorly, at his poorest, he was hurting us, with some of the things that he was doing wrong. And now I can't really say that in the last few games, whether he's been hurting us. I actually think he's been at a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, even to a degree. He's been fine recently. Just no goals, of course.
A lot's been made of this team meeting they had after the City away game, which I wish they'd had after the Villa game, and the fact that we've been more go back to basics, what we've done, and Son's performance has improved since then. So is that all part of it? The system working probably has helped him. You are right, HG. The way City played helped us massively, and what on earth Pep was doing was just a bit baffling. But,
and sorry, but to be fair with Leicester, Leicester know their strength is going forward, so they may well play something similar to City. Even if they did go 4-2-3-1, who were the 2? Tielemans plus 1? And that 1 is going to be someone who's not great at, Wilfred Ndidi's not played well for a whole season now.
It's the left-footed youngster who's come through the ranks.
Dewsbury Hall, but again, I don't see Dewsbury Hall as the defensive midfielder. He and Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall is more of a box-to-box on the left-hand side. Tielemans can sit, but is more it's an awful comparison, but more like a Pirlo-style player. That they've always needed. Most teams need someone who's going to sit there and just kick the crap out of people if they come close to them. And Leicester at their best had that, and I don't see it right now. So it's that to me is a key thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
team news.
Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall, and James Maddison more often than not, which is a very kind of anti-combative kind of midfield.
They are Spurs. Leicester are Spurs in the 90s. That's really harsh to think that one of them is Jason Dezelle, but still, Leicester are Spurs in the 90s.
Which one's Jason Cundy? Which idiot?
Soyuncu, probably.
Hasn't he left? Has he left or not? Did they get rid of him?
He wanted to, but he
yeah.
fell
Oh, okay.
through or something. I think.
Yeah, they tried to. So we've got obviously no in goal, as we know, as we found out in midweek. The man that jumped all over Harry Kane has suddenly got an injury. Clearly fell off Harry awkwardly. So Fraser Forster in goal. How are we feeling about that, JP?
You know, when we were talking about this a couple of weeks back, and everyone was like, "Just put Forster in goal. Hugo's been rubbish," and now everyone's like, "Oh, we need another keeper. Forster, don't trust him. We can't have it all." I'm all right with it as far as backups go. Fraser Forster's pretty good. This is why you have a backup, right? You expect a bit of a drop off, but as far as backups go, I'm happy with him as the backup, so I'm fine with it as an overarching thing. But would I prefer to have Hugo in the squad still? Yeah. I mean, I probably still, if I'm going to pick a goalkeeper on their day, I'm definitely going to pick Hugo.
Yeah. Okay. Centre back, we have no Christian Romero because of his two very harsh yellows. Who do you think, Jack? Who's gonna come in there? Is it going to be Sanchez or is Longley with Dier on the right?
I kind of have. This is only one game, so I feel like I've heard the argument. It felt like a bit of an invented theory, kind of like the Emerson moving in a right-sided center back thing. Felt like a bit of, just like a Twitter theory or something like that, like going around the fan base. If it were like 3 games, like if we did get like a Casemiro type suspension, I would consider maybe, throwing Emerson back there. But since it's only one game, I feel like you want to do something that is like the least change possible, not something too dramatic or anything like that. So I'd actually go with Dier on the right and then Longley through the middle and then Davies on the left. Mostly that's because I feel like Sanchez and Tanganga are really like hopeless in possession. And in fact, they hurt us more than they help us. And I feel like when in possession, and especially when we're coming up, I think against teams that want to press us or teams that want to kind of push a little bit higher up, it's kind of easy to win the ball off of them, or it's easy to force them into mistakes, where if that actually ends up happening with a team like Leicester, I feel like it's probably better just to keep on players that are all kind of more comfortable on the ball. So I'd rather just keep as many players on the pitch that are more comfortable on the ball in this kind of system. So just push Dier out right, put, Longley through the middle, and then Davies on the left. I really don't have confidence in Sanchez or Tanganga. Maybe for one game I might, but I'd rather just honestly put Longley in there somehow.
We've tried that before, haven't we? And it was horrible. Like, we've tried the Longley Dier Davies combo, and it just didn't work. Like, Dier didn't give you any.
I'm trying to remember what.
I can't remember the game, but I remember
Bournemouth. We got really frustrated, and then we pushed Dier out there or something like that.
Dier came off the bench, didn't he, and was put in the right centre back, and it did work against Bournemouth when we were 2-0 down.
But then I think JP is right. There then was another game where we maybe started out that way, and it didn't work out that way.
I think we just didn't get as much progression as we thought we would from Dier. I think it's a moot point because we know Sanchez is going to play.
I agree. Like, I think Sanchez is the obvious choice because of what we've seen Conte do, and I don't think Stellini is going to go away from that. Having said that, if we've played well against Man City because it was Dier moving into midfield to counter whatever numbers are there, whether it was Bernardo Silva or whoever, and we've maybe stumbled upon something that we should have stumbled upon a long time ago, then, well, if Dier stays in the middle, then what? What do you want to do? Do you want a defender who's just going to basically defend and has no desire to do anything else? Then you probably would go with Sanchez. If you want the wide centre-backs to push forward, like we've seen most of the year, then you definitely don't want Sanchez doing it. So that's the key question. What do we want to do? If we want to continue what we saw against City, then I think Dier stays where he is. I don't want Longley doing that, and I don't really want 2 left-footed centre-backs either side of Dier. Like, it's a bit awkward, but I feel like that's kind of the decision we need to make. Sanchez will play, but how Spurs play will kind of decide where he is. Like, if you want the wide centre backs to go forward, then it should be Davies and Dier and Sanchez in the middle, or Longley in the middle, but probably Sanchez. But if you want Dier to move forward into midfield, then to me Sanchez is the only reasonable chance, because Emerson likes to go forward, and we can't have all of them doing that. So it's an interesting one, but I think that's the key decision. How do we want to play?
If you think about the recent games we've played as well, the times Leicester have travelled us is when Maddison's picking up that space between our kind of two midfielders and where our centre-backs don't want to step up into. So if there's a game where we go, you know what, let's do that again, this is probably it, where you do push Dier forward a little bit more and have those two come back. So Davies and Sanchez make the most sense for me in that situation.
I think the trouble is Sanchez is the only one with pace, really, isn't he? And Iheanacho's not the slowest, so it does sort of make some sense. We've got a few comments.
He did have a howler, though, I would say, against Leicester City last time. Like he did. He conceded a penalty, whatever it was, like within minutes. Like, and I remember he missed like the majority of his challenges in that game. It felt like
he did. Well, Perisic obviously was playing right wing back that day and made an absolute howler. And then Sanchez followed it up and gave away the penalty. I just want to go through a few comments here. Daniel Harrison, I'm going to come on to this. Has he found his new role? Because Stellini talked about this. It's been quite public now, the fact that Dier was stepping forward into midfield. And Stellini spoke about this on what we changed against City. Our tactics came from Antonio, what Antonio wanted. We continued with that, me and Ryan Mason. We spoke immediately during the game that we needed to change something, and we decided to have Eric Dier being more aggressive, dealing with Bernardo Silva, who was operating between the lines, and that is all we changed. So it was a during the game tactic they changed. I do wonder how much Mason, obviously being at the club a number of years and knowing that Dier played in central midfield, had input into that. And it sounded from Stellini's post-match comments that Mason did have a lot of input, indeed. So that's that one covered. But you're right.
But I think it makes sense. Like Maddison will do exactly what Bernardo Silva did, right? We know that's what he wants to do. And if the new signing plays on the right-hand side, then Maddison won't be pulling out to that side either. He'll have to occupy that space in the middle. So it makes complete sense to just have Dier decide what he wants to do when he wants to do it. I mean, that's what we did when we were really good. Like Dier moved. No, but I mean seriously, like
never a more scary word been said.
No, look, I don't believe, because when we were good in 16-17, we usually played three centre backs, and if we struggled, we pushed Dier into midfield. Like, yes, it left Jan and Toby behind, who are clearly a much better pairing than pretty much any pairing we could put forward, even if Romero is available. But still, that's what we did. So it feels a bit of a no-brainer. Like if they're going to play the same way or similarly, then we need to do something similar. At least know that that's now a possibility. I mean, that in itself is an improvement. Even if we stumbled across it on one particular game, there are lots of teams that play with a number 10. Even now, there still are lots of teams that want to do that.
It's nice to see Ryan Mason be given also some credit, to be fair. I know we kind of, I don't know, sometimes he's like at the end of jokes or we seem to make fun of him, but he does seem to be, or I don't know, he seems to fit into like a high level of, around good people. Like Antonio Conte was immediately impressed with him and the way that he runs kind of training routines and runs his sort of drills and everything like that and exercises. He just seems to be able to handle his own, or like, he can, how would you say, he can carry his own weight, or, he can talk the talk, he can walk the walk, so to speak, kind of Ryan Mason, for being so young and sort of also, I mean, as we all know, still inexperienced at the end of the day when it comes to it all. But it seems like, he, like you said, maybe pointed out that Dier can step into midfield, helped out Stellini in that regard, and he's been kept around by Antonio Conte and Stellini. It's just kind of maybe interesting. Ryan Mason does, seem to know what he's talking about to a degree.
The other thing I'd say, just kind of going back to this conversation around Dier stepping into midfield, and if you have a Sanchez-Davies combination at the back, given Royale's renaissance, the temptation is going to be to play Royale again today. But in a game that's going to be a shootout, this is not the game for Emerson. And a right-hand side of Sanchez and Royale gives you no progression, which is going to put all the pressure back onto Sonny to be able to do stuff, because it's all going to come down his end. And so I think that it needs to be the Porro game. This is the time we need to see him.
I think that's what I also meant, though, by Dier playing on the right, because I think, Dier playing on the right would help out Emerson more than, Sanchez would. But I agree with the point you make there, JP. Another thing, too, is I feel like Leicester City, last time we played them, they really struggled against Kulusevski's crosses, just kind of crosses in general, I remember. And so you would probably want Pedro Porro on, because that's exactly what he does.
Isn't that... Did Kulu play in that game? Oh, he did, didn't he? Wasn't he taken off for Sonny? Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And then Sonny scored the hat.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was the game before he got injured playing for Sweden. That was his last appearance
yes,
before he
that
was
was it.
out. So yeah.
So, who plays left wing back? I've seen Adrian suggested Sessegnon. Given that we play Milan on Tuesday, do you think Sess plays this one, HG and Perisic on Tuesday?
Yeah, I could see that. I really could. I mean, like, I mean, this is never going to happen. But it'd be interesting to see Longley play left centre back and have Davies play the wing back role. I mean, genuinely, like Sessegnon, he's just there to keep the ball in play. I don't expect much more from him than that. I don't think he can defend. I don't think he can attack. I think he's decent technically, but just feels scared. So I don't know. But we're not going to change that many positions. But it's getting to the point now that I would literally rather see Longley take Davies' position and Davies play wing back than I want to see Sessegnon at all. Like Perisic in Milan, okay, it makes sense. Because they're not going to play, basketball style football. Like he'll have lots of time on the ball, he'll have like time to make his runs, which we know he can do. So the chance, but he's had 6 days off. He's not your average 34-year-old. But I guess with Chelsea, coming up week after and West Ham, it's a very big week coming up. So maybe if we feel like he can't play 3, then perhaps the 2 versus. Chelsea and Milan are the ones that will see Perisic. I don't know, but I'm not a fan of Sessegnon. I don't really.
No, I don't think anyone really is. Obviously, your mother's just commented saying no. Jeff's saying he shouldn't be anywhere near the team. Sess is such a letdown. I mean, I thought he did all right against Man City. I thought it was very bizarre that he actually attacked Kyle Walker. He tried to go at Kyle Walker, which I thought was the weirdest thing ever because he's the fastest fullback in the league. But fair play to him. He had a go. I mean, the one cross he had, he managed to hit against his standing foot. But yeah, I mean, it is strange. We've got Reguilon. Conte doesn't like Reguilon, but Reguilon would be doing a better job, I think. So
I think it all
obviously
depends what we do on the right, really. Like if we play Porro, Sessegnon will definitely play. But if we go with Royale, you can't have Royale and Sessegnon being the ones giving you the width out wide.
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple of comments saying, actually, HG, let's just break off for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Sam wants to know, we're in different rooms. So I'll go first. I normally record outside in the garage. I've got a converted garage, but it's quite cold. It's been quite cold, and I'm not putting the electric heater on. So I'm in the living room, but I've got to be a bit quiet because everyone's asleep upstairs. HG, do you want to explain your palatial kitchen in your penthouse in Vienna?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could do it for those words. Look, is it because our backgrounds look the same? Is that why he thinks we're in the same room? I don't.
No.
Really
I think different rooms from where we normally record. You've normally got a wall behind you, and I've normally got. Yeah.
Okay. No, I am in the same room. I've just changed direction. I'm usually in the corner over there. But we've had a renovation this week, so there's very little furniture in this room apart from the new kitchen behind me and a couch to my right. So same room, but I have I'm what they call here a 3-room apartment. It's not palatial, 2 bedrooms and the living room / kitchen, but I like it.
That's right, Lloyd. No same background, I think. Thanks, Mother.
Mum, I don't know. Yeah, thanks, Mum. Thanks for helping out with the finance for this. I'll put that publicly, but thank you.
Oh. And for a change, JP in warmer gear as usual. It's the summer in Australia. How warm is it, JP?
I think it's going to be like 30 odd today. So, yeah, it's not too bad.
I've been having to defrost my car each morning, get the scraper on the windscreen. Oh, it's been minus. I mean, obviously in Vienna it's much colder, but it's been -2, -3 quite a few times down here on the south coast. What's it like in New York at the moment, Jack?
We just survived like a very odd time period where it was for like 12 hours. It was at that temperature where it was like snowing, which is I think lovely. But then the following day, it then dropped by like another 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So we were for like a few days in a row. It was legitimately like 10 degrees outside, which is, I can't convert that to Celsius well, but I'd imagine that's much worse than -3. I think that's probably more like -6, -7, maybe.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was like the type of cold where it was like any type of skin exposed is, not, doesn't feel good, let's say. So, I absolutely hate. Whenever I'm in that type of conditions, I immediately would happily move to any place that will be unlivable in 20 years as long as it's warm. You know, I'd happily move to New Mexico or, you know, Arizona or whatever the moment it reaches that type of temperature. It's too cold at that temp. Too cold.
Yeah, I mean,
It's actually okay. We've gotten very little snow this year in New York. Very, very, very little snow. It's very strange.
Go on, JP.
I was just going to say, just watch what you say there, because you can always put on more clothes. There are only so many you can take off.
I mean, it's been, we've had some sunny days here. It's just been quite chilly. I am planning to go on a big trail run tomorrow up the big hill in Goodwood. So hopefully I'll get some nice shots. I'm sure it'll be, I think it's supposed to be a 6 or 7. That'll be fine because I'll get hot. Anyway, let's get back to the football. And Sam is now, having discussed our backgrounds, is saying Porro and Perisic debut. Well, that's what we want, isn't it, HD? We want Porro pinging in those crosses for Perisic at the far post.
I think that's still the ideal solution at some point. I mean, I don't know where these games are going to happen, but yeah, like Porro's available. If he's a massive improvement for Champions League. Certainly, the home game you'd expect to see him play in that one. But yeah, it's all about finding that right moment because he's only been at the club for a week or week and a half. He was sick for part of it. So yeah, right now Perisic and Porro would be the two that we want to see in the big games. But the balance has to be right. Like it's not just a balance left and right. It is like attacking and defending. Like if we're going to do that, if we're going to play two attacking wing backs, then to me the midfield two need to be not very defensive, but quite defensive. And I think we've seen so far that both Hojbjerg and Bentancur are probably better when they're not doing just that. So I don't know if we found our best 11 really, but we are finding options where we can get a good 11 most weeks.
Yeah. Jack, do you know much about Tete and Christensen, the new signings at Leicester?
I know nothing about Christensen other than I believe he's Danish, if I'm not mistaken. And with Tete, I actually do know a bit about him. I am a big fan of Shakhtar Donetsk and all of their former players, managers, whatsoever. I just think they're kind of one of those very cleverly run clubs that sadly has, of course, been under circumstances that are out of their control. But I just think they're one of those clubs that have produced like incredible players. And sort of like if you do ever watch, like whenever I see like a Europa League game on or Champions League nights, I always make sure to see if like Shakhtar have like, some interesting opponent, because they just always seem to have like some guy that's going to be one of the next best players in the world. It seems like, at some stage they do seem to have a pretty incredible academy, and they have that really cool mixture of like really good Ukrainian players playing alongside really good Brazilian talents. And I don't know, I do like Shakhtar. And also, as we know, De Zerbi, before he even was at his last Italian club originally, also came from the likes of Shakhtar Donetsk. So I think Tete is a really good player. He's left-footed. Like, I would say very, very left-footed, kind of like Antony is, like at Man United, where he doesn't have much of a right foot. But I would say he's a lot less of the merry-go-round spins and the tick-tock, kind of skills. He's actually an effective footballer is what I would say, Tete. I do enjoy him. And even his most recent game, like John, he was really effective for them and kind of hit the ground running. It seemed like he had a smashing debut. So that would be the player that I'd be actually slightly worried about, because he is now playing at home in front of the Foxes after already having, a great debut away from home. So maybe if he were to carry on that type of form, he could have a good game against us. And like I said earlier, I think that, that signing of Tete actually brought a lot of balance to that Leicester City team that they actually needed. Originally, they were playing James Maddison in all these weird positions and trying to make it work. And now that they have a guy like him, I think James Maddison can play through the middle, between the lines as a number 10, which makes them more dangerous, in my opinion. So I think it was a good signing for them, in my opinion. Would have been a decent. Also, I think we were looking at him as like a Kulusevski alternative, if I'm not mistaken. At one stage. So yeah, I like them.
Okay. Shall we do our score predictions for this game then? HG, I know how much you love the score predictions.
Yeah, I prefer it when it's not Spurs. Without Romero, I am a bit nervous. But we've managed to pull results out because we've got decent strikers. We still have the best striker in the league. So I don't think we're going to lose. But I also don't think it'll be as tight or close as it was last year when, according to Caller, we lost 2-1. I think there's been a few years where we've scored first and won quite relatively comfortably. It might be one of those. It'd be like 2-0, maybe 2-1 right at the end when Leicester get a goal back. I'll go 2-1 Spurs.
And in that case, I'm sure you'll see your favourite face you posted on Facebook earlier. There he is. That's the face you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, that was after Bergwijn scored the second last year to win it right at the end. It's just, I mean, Brendan Rodgers. You know, when you see him stand next to anyone, I mean, like Antonio Conte's not the biggest, but he'll tower over. And I mean, he probably won't be there, but you know, Stellini will tower over him. He's poor old Brendan. I don't know what his next move will be, if I'm honest. Like, I think if he leaves Leicester, I don't see a bigger club going for him. I think Leicester is probably his level. So good luck to him from next week. But tomorrow, no.
JP, score, please.
3-2 to Spurs.
Okay. Jack.
I'm also going to go 3-2 or 4-2. I feel like this could be a game where defending goes out the door, and it's pretty much just whichever team can score more goals and whichever team can take advantage of the mistakes that the other defense kind of offers up. I think it's not going to be a game where a fan of a good defender will be happy. I think it's going to be some pretty sloppy goals and some mistakes, so I can see it being like 3-2.
Yeah, I mean, the last two seasons have been
This is like
4-2 and 3-2.
Yeah, that was my point. Like, we won there 7-1 when, you know, right at the end of this a very, very good season. So we tend to score a number of goals at Leicester. Even if we lose, we tend to score. And the game we lost, I think we lost 2-1. That was the one where Aurier was offside, but by like, you know, a toe.
Ooh.
So
Well, someone was offside and Aurier hit it in, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, but I just think that it's going to be along those lines. There will be goals. We've talked about this, but yeah.
I could see us conceding first and then going 2 goals up and then them equalizing and then us getting another one. Like, it's going to be one of those type of games. I could see.
On page. Go on, Jay.
I was just going to say, Gavin's put a good one in here around Richarlison scoring. I think it's important. Richarlison needs to get that goal soon. It's had a really stop-start nature, but if he goes much longer without a Premier League goal, do we start worrying?
I think
I think he just needs more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
I just think he needs to not be injured. This is where I sort of look at it. I feel like Richarlison, if you actually look at how often he's been available, it's been very little. In fact, I think we would see him more if he was available, because it feels like they like to throw him on when he is like fit and when he is available, but he's just
him on is like Conte makes 75th minute substitution. So even if he's getting thrown in every game, he plays 15
despite only making 75th minute appearances, he's found himself like injured constantly, and that's I think where Richarlison's problem is. It's not actually been a lack of opportunities or a lack of like minutes. I think it's him being injured and then not getting those chances just because he's injured. I think that's all it is for me. I think he's been injured a lot. He's been injured more than even like Kulusevski has, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it will be interesting to see, like, if Richarlison gets good minutes off the bench, it's because we're losing at half time and we change the system to have him and Kane up top, and losing by a couple, right? Or we're winning by a few and then Kane gets some minutes rest. Like, otherwise, like, do I want to see him down the left instead of Danjuma? I'm not sure I do, because I think Richarlison is best as a central striker. So this idea of, you know, going so many games without a Premier League goal, well, that's kind of the position he's in right now. He's Kane's rotation option, and we don't rotate Kane. So it's a weird position to be in, because, you know, we saw in the World Cup, first game back for Brazil, scores the goal that's going to be probably one of the Puskas nominations. I don't know with Richarlison really where he lies unless we change the system to bring him in.
I agree with that.
He's not going to start ahead of Kane.
I agree with that, but that's what I also have sort of alluded to, is like, I feel like there have been opportunities though for Kane to be given a rest, or for Kane to be taken off, like maybe sooner rather than later, like in a game. And there have been a few games, I think, in fact, where Kane definitely did not need to start. And Richarlison was injured, so Kane was forced to start. And I think there was, in fact, like a good period where it did feel like there were plenty of games where it's like, does Kane really need to be playing all 90 minutes here? Or does Kane really need to be starting this game? And it was like, yes, he does, because Richarlison's hurt, Kulusevski's hurt, all these players are hurt, and we kind of just had, you know, threadbare attackers to pick from. So I think it's just been more down due to injuries. I'm not that worried yet about Richie, but I'm also been a bit of an apologist for him at the same time. So
I'm going to go for.
I
I've done on that. Oh, go on, Nate. Go on.
So no, I care that we win. More than anything else, I care that we win. Who plays and how we get there is less relevant to me. Like if Richarlison plays 30 minutes for the rest of the season, but we win every game and he comes on for a 1 minute sub like he was Bryan playing as a right wing back, couldn't care less. Sorry, Richie, I really couldn't care less. I don't care if other fans think you're rubbish, if you're a waste of money. I care that Spurs win. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. That's what I put in the Patreon prediction league earlier, and you can join our Patreon chat for just £3 a month. Details are in the ticker at the bottom, the little banner at the bottom of the screen, and we've got a big chat. It's an app called Slack, isn't it, JP? We've got a little chat, and we've got loads of different chats. We've got match chats, we've got general stuff, we've got prediction leagues, fancy football, cricket, all sorts in there.
I feel like the ticket thing is probably the best thing about it.
Well, yes,
like if you're paying
exchange, yeah,
£3 a month, we're a various season ticket holders, little Patreon group, and can't go to games quite often. And so if you make friends with the right people, if you're there at the right time, would you rather give the club what 50 quid is it for a membership to maybe get a chance of a ticket? Pay. It's less to join the Patreon for the cheese room, and we can give you probably better odds of finding a ticket almost.
You also get your money back in the worth of this mug that you received as part of the Patreon. Fantastic graphics on the other side. Mate, there's just value stringing. You're losing money by not signing up to the Patreon chat.
Classy and simple. Classy and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sat in Dave Bolton's seat for the Leeds game. And by the way, the Leeds game was when Dier was right centre-back and Longley got taken off for Sanchez after an hour in that game when he was playing in the middle. Okay. And Dave's never sat in his own season ticket because he now lives in the States. He's never sat in his seat because of COVID and everything. So, but it was a great seat, just above the standing in the south stand. Really good view.
Yeah, I should say, my mum has that seat for at least twice this season for the rest of the season. So we can't offer that particular seat very often, but there are a number of season ticket holders who aren't around for reasons, real or fake or whatever it is. There are things going around. People can't go, and they'd love to share those tickets with people who are patrons. That's we help our friends out, right?
Yeah, Caller can't go Saturdays because he has to work, so his ticket is quite often available. Daniel's son has his cheese room badge on his school bag and has it with pride. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Dan, thanks a lot for your son, and your son, that's top. That's
your poor son for making him a Spurs fan. I did it to James, so Jack's son gets to go to Milan because of the cheese room.
Wow.
Oh,
wow. Wow.
Maybe I don't know why, but there you go.
Apparently,
probably shouldn't go into the reason why. Yeah.
Did you know about this?
Did not know about that. Right. So we have a quick
scan.
These are our next 10 fixtures. These are our next 10 fixtures. So we've got Leicester, Milan away in week, then West Ham next Sunday. Then we got a week off before Chelsea, and we know Conte likes a week off, doesn't he? Then we play Sheffield United, who sadly beat Wrexham HG.
I don't want to say sadly. As much as I like the Wrexham story, I wanted no part of it at Wrexham on a Wednesday night. Like at Spurs, fair enough. But Sheffield United are a good side, and we won't underestimate them. I think that's it. And with Wrexham, there might be National League, but it's League One budget. They've got some really good players, and that would have been a much more of a banana skin, really, than Sheffield United is. It's weird, but yeah.
Well, they haven't committed, the human rights violations that maybe other, big clubs.
What, Ryan Reynolds? What are you talking about?
Exactly. Well, he isn't the type of money that's in the Premier League. I also, though, just don't really have too much sympathy. It's just it's nice to see a National League team be kind of rejuvenated and revitalized. But I just also I do also kind of get some of the logic that people like him and Gary Neville with his club as well. They are kind of I don't know. It seems so silly to put this because I don't want to draw the bar really anywhere, but it does seem like they are a bit like the big spoiled, kind of clubs of the non-league, and so I feel like I wasn't necessarily rooting for Wrexham, is maybe what I'm trying to say.
Jack, you just insulted Deadpool.
But I have found that funny that they are basically the Man City or the Newcastle of the non-league. So not really crying too many tears for them losing out. They've made it much further than any non-league team would ever make it. So
yeah, JP. So those 10 fixtures, are you worried about any of them? Obviously, at Spurs, you're worried about them all, but realistically,
I'm Spurs, so I'm worried about them all. But I'm Spurs, so I'm also incredibly worried about Chelsea just because of our record against Chelsea. I think if we get through Leicester, Milan, and West Ham with 9 points, obviously Milan Champions League game, whatever. We win those 3, then I'm really confident about going into Chelsea, Sheffield, Wolves, Forest, Southampton, Everton. Like, there's a real opportunity for us to come out here and be punching. I think if we come out of this, we could go on a real run over these next 10 games.
You'd be more convinced of a run being on or of some kind.
Yeah, but I'd need to see really like this excitement that we've got now. I need to see that continue over the next 3 games. And then I go, all right, something's building here. We can go on a run. If we have some slip-ups, a draw against West Ham, Milan doesn't go that well, then I start worrying about games like Everton under Dyche, Wolves, who seem to have picked up a little bit over the last couple of games. Chelsea's a banana skin for us every year. It starts feeling really cagey, like one of those months where we drop points we need to pick up. The next 3 games are key.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the table, those 7 or 8 league opponents, most of them are in the bottom 8. Like, I think Chelsea the only one that isn't, and they're still mid-table officially. It's Spurs. It's got to be one game at a time. We all know what we're capable of. But if Romero gets another double yellow card, that'll be a game for getting sent off, and then 2 more for having so many yellow cards. Anything can happen. I want us to beat Leicester, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Shall we do our Premier League predictions? All JP's limbering up. So lunchtime kickoff. West Ham against Chelsea. I'm going to start with Jack this time.
I feel like Graham Potter has to be sacked if he loses this game. Because David Moyes is also David Moyes has gotten some credit back in the bank. I think he's gotten some good wins, back, but they are both under trouble. I'm going to say West Ham would draw or win this game. I can't say either, but they'll draw or win this. And then Graham Potter better be. I mean, I hope he stays in charge, but seriously, they better think about sacking him if he loses that game.
JP?
1-1.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-0 West Ham.
Very good. 1-0.
Go 1-0. HG.
Chelsea to win. The thing is, I don't think Potter's a bad coach. I really don't. I think Chelsea are he's figuring out what he wants to do with Chelsea, but I don't see Burley sacking him. I think he'll get the rest of the season, and we'll see what happens then. So yeah, Chelsea, I don't want them to win, but I just think West Ham are pretty garbage, and Chelsea will do enough. They'll find a way to get the 3 points.
If Bowley sacks Potter, or this talk about oh no, they're doing it really smart, all of that goes out the window. All of that, and they're just he's a madman scrambling. So he can't sack him. He cannot sack him.
That is true.
He sacked Tuchel to get him. I mean, that was weird enough at the time. So once you've got him, no.
Your player trading philosophy, rubbish. Suddenly it's just rubbish. Your vision of football, rubbish. He's secure for the next 18 months. There's nothing he can do and lose that Chelsea job for the next 18 months.
That's awesome. I wish it was like that for the rest of us in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, should we move on? Adrian's just jumping ahead already with his forecast in the chat. So, Brentford are doing very well, but I can't see them getting anything from the Emirates. I'm going to say 3-1 to Arsenal. HG.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Brentford will play well, they'll score, we'll get our hopes up, and Arsenal will somehow make it. Like, I'd love to see another Everton result, but no, I don't know. Like, I'm going to be positive and say Brentford will get a point. 1-1.
Jack?
I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, if they've already played each other, I believe Brentford lost, and they lost kind of badly, or like
3-0.
Arsenal. Yeah, and so it's one of two ways. Either they kind of show up defeated, or they show up trying to prove something. I'm going to say they kind of show up a little defeated in this one, so I'm going to say they lose like 3-0 or 3-1 or something.
You'll have taken the wrong road here. This is the time. Brentford 2-0.
Oh,
It's
It
coming.
would be brilliant. And the wheels will be coming off if they lose this.
I think
That'd be
if
fantastic.
Arsenal lose this, they don't win the league.
Well, they've got Man City on Wednesday as well.
I think they played Man City twice in the space of like a week or something.
No. Oh, no. So they've got Man City in the week, and then they play them in April.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm wrong.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it could be the turnaround. It could not be, but I mean, if it happens.
Yeah, look, we all want Brentford to win, right? So Brentford will win.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
Just bring
Brentford
positive
will
vibes
win.
out into the universe.
Do you know what? What's happened with this Ivan Toney betting investigation? 234 things. It's just gone quiet again. Really
They're
weird,
more
isn't it?
busy with the Man City one at the moment, so maybe that's
We
just
all know
a-
that these things don't. No one's going to get prosecuted during the season. We have to let all that play out in the off season. Can't have football clubs impacted by the behaviour of their players.
The M23 Alan Mullery Derby, HG.
0-0. Like, every time I go to watch this game, expecting there's going to be fireworks, and it's boring AF. 0-0. Sorry.
Jack.
Vieira is weirdly under trouble at the moment. He's kind of got to win this one. I say he loses 2-1. I say he loses 2-1 to De Zerbi, but he's in trouble right now, Vieira. They have not picked up points in a while, and they could slip into the relegation.
Vieira's not a good manager. I'm going to put it out there. He's not a good manager. He wasn't a good manager in France. He did nothing really to deserve the Palace job in the first place.
That is true.
They
He
bought
wasn't
some
good in France, but he kind of surprised me when he came in initially. But maybe he didn't.
Yeah, I think the Palace have got good players, but
That's-
if he's trying to fit them all in the team and it's not working, who's that down to? Like, I don't think Palace are a candidate to be relegated. But if there's a team that's going to drop like a stone and end up being that team,
They shouldn't
it's
be near
Palace.
relegation. They should be like 11th or 12th or 10th or something like that. That's where they should be. That's true. So, but I say they lose. I think Brighton beat them.
King Hoddle's not happy. He's shouting capital letters. It's not a proper
Brighton
derby,
probably
but
beat them.
obviously, I think Brighton win. I was just going to see what I predicted. I predicted 2-0 in Patreon, although I forgot to double up on one of my scores, so I need to do that in a minute. So thanks, Keith, for telling me that. Shall we go to the next slide? Fulham Forest. I'm going to go 2. What have I gone here? I've gone 2-0 Fulham. Yeah, HG.
Yeah, home win for. Like, I think Forest are good, but I think Fulham are better.
Mitro's on fire. 3-0. Fulham.
2-0
JP?
Fulham feels about right. Yeah, 2-0 Fulham feels about right.
Southampton Wolves. What have I gone here? Oh, I've gone 2-0 Wolves on this one. HG.
Like, Wolves are more in form. Southampton are desperate for points. Their manager is a joke, but a funny one because you can really laugh at him. Probably a draw. Southampton, if they're going to get points, it will be at home. So even though Wolves have played well, yeah, let's go with 1-1.
I was proven very right on my Hasenhüttl love. I remember I was here during the Southampton preview that we did with whatever Southampton fan we had for this show. And I did say that Hasenhüttl is very underappreciated and is, in fact, lifting up this team from relegation for years. And they put in another manager who I do think is not a good manager. But look where they are. They are very much the worst team in the league. So I think Hasenhüttl has been proven a bit right with maybe what he was able to get out of, that Southampton side. I say they lose this 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. Lopetegui teams are very boring, so I would say 2-1. Maybe they lose this.
2-1. Yeah, 2-1 feels about right. Wolves will win it 2-1, maybe 3-1.
James Ward-Prowse free kick.
Yeah, Southampton will score first in like the first 10 minutes, and then it'll just be a bloodbath.
I actually think if Southampton score first, they may well win. I think they can defend. Right, what is next? Bournemouth, Newcastle. I've got this down as a 3-0 win for Newcastle. HG?
Yeah, logic says Newcastle. So you can too many goals. Bournemouth, I don't think they score too many. I don't think it's going to be a classic, but Newcastle will do enough. Probably just 1-0.
I'm going to say... I'm kind of going to go for a crazy out of the loop one. I'm going to say 1-1, just because it feels like Newcastle are struggling to score at the moment. And if they continue to struggle to score, maybe Bournemouth go 1 goal up, like out of nowhere. Maybe they go 1 goal up, and then Newcastle just try to claw it back. I'm going to say it's going to go 1-1.
Positive vibes for top 4 trophy. Bournemouth 1-0.
Right. Okay. The reverse fixture was such a long time ago. Leeds versus Manchester United. Although they drew the other night, will United have Casemiro back, or was he still suspended? Did he get a 3-game suspension?
Still suspended.
Oh, I actually went for United. I'd gone with United 3-1, thinking he'd be back. I'll stick with United win, I think. I think they will win there.
Yeah, like I hope not. Like Leeds.
Yeah,
they're the local team to my mum, right? Like I don't really like Leeds particularly, but I like that they're going to get points now that they've sacked their manager. So probably another draw. But it's a massive game. The two teams together, and Leeds will be up for it. So hopefully Leeds will get it. But draw.
Jack.
Perhaps the secret all along was, one American too many or one Yank, too many over at Leeds. And now they have the perfect amount, just, the perfect balance. So I could see them. It's tough. I could see Man United actually winning this one, sadly. I could see it going like 2-1 Man United. Maybe they get like a goal right at the end of the depths or whatever. But yeah, I'm going to say Man United actually win this one.
Mother HG's going for a win for Leeds, and so is Adrian. I'll tell you what, Jack, just before we come to JP, I read Weston McKennie apparently was very good the other night. I was doing a show with Craig, so I didn't actually see the game.
He felt like a chicken with his head cut off when I was watching him, but which is very, though, Weston McKennie kind of style, which is how he plays, to be fair. He does play like a chicken with his head cut off, but I don't know, like, he looked okay. It felt like he could look better. I felt like he just gave it away a lot from what I saw, but I wasn't like paying attention like as closely as other people. But from what I saw, it felt like he gave the ball away a lot, or was trying
JP?
too much.
2-0 United.
Okay, man. I've got this down as a 3-0 win. Oh, go on.
Sorry, no, the one thing United have improved this season because of Casemiro and Emerson, right? And neither of them are there. Yeah. And so I feel like if those two don't, anyone can get a result against Man United. They've got strikers that can score, as we saw, because they came back from 2-0 down. But yeah, they're like Leeds at home. If they get one, United may well struggle. So I hope it's a draw. But I just think the Mira Eriksson thing needs to be focused on because they're both clearly very good players, and United struggle really a lot without them.
Okay, I hope you're right. I've gone 3-0 for Man City, hoping that they sort themselves out and he actually plays his best players and stops cocky about with this formation. HG?
Yeah, do they? They're not playing Champions League midweek because they've got Arsenal. So yes. Villa are good enough, right? I mean, they are good enough to get City right now are pretty listless, but I want to say City will win, so I'm going to say it 2-0 City.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 2-2 Villa, or no, even I'm actually going to say like 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1. Ooh. Just because Unai Emery, like, he really shut us up, away from home with that 5-3-2, whatever they played. That was really, stifled us. And I could see him setting up very defensively, very negatively and just, frustrating the hell out of Man City. So I'm actually going to say 1-1.
Oh, another HG agrees with you, Jack. JP.
I'm going to buck everyone's trend here. 6-0 City, and Haaland will get 4.
That's what we want to see, right? I have no love for Villa. I know Gibbo doesn't like Villa because they're his wife's family's team. So look, City, again, let's get the good vibes out there. City to win by a hatful, Arsenal to lose or to not win against Brentford, and then when that to be the result we all know it should be, and City will walk that, and then we'll all be feeling much better next week.
Tend to find as well, whenever City get questioned about their off-field stuff, they tend to go out and slap someone up just to make you shut up. So Villa hopefully will be the recipients of that.
Oh, them and Arsenal.
Yeah.
Arsenal.
That would be brilliant with them. The last game, Merseyside derby on Monday. Does that mean you're not going to be on the show Monday, HG? You're going to be watching that?
I do want to watch that game because Everton, Klopp, if it was this year's Liverpool against Lampard, I wouldn't care. I don't know. Talk to me at the weekend. We'll see. But I might want to watch that.
All right, darling. So Everton are 18th on 18 points, and Liverpool are 10th on 29. They're 10 points behind us. I know they've got a couple of games in hand, but they're not firing. If ever Everton were going to get a result, this has surely got to be a HG.
Yeah. No, I mean, they beat Arsenal, which cheered everyone up. And so they'll have confidence. Anfield, I do think Liverpool will win, but Everton will be better than they would have been had Lampard been in charge, and that's clear. It's not much of a prediction, but I think Liverpool will do enough.
Jack?
I just want Sean Dyche just to go 4-4-2, back to his roots, throw every single man behind that ball, and just frustrate the hell out of Jurgen Klopp. I really want him to do that, and I want Jurgen Klopp just to be complaining, incessantly afterwards. I'm going to say I've gone for a lot of 1-1s, but I'm going to go for another 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1 again. Everton end up getting a draw just because I think Sean Dyche, he's been thrown into the fire. He's wearing the shorts in the middle of the winter. He's just feeling himself right now. He couldn't be more confident. He's running beep tests. He's in his element right now, Sean Dyche. So 1-1.
JP?
This has the glorious feel of an entertaining 0-0 draw written all over it. So
The best 0-0 of the season.
Yeah.
I think Jack,
Dyche is going to stick the place out. It's going to be amazing.
he'll play 4-5-1 again, and they really, those three powerful midfielders they had playing last week, Onana on one side and Decore on the other side, joining Calvert-Lewin. It'll be, obviously, if Calvert-Lewin's injured, as Craig has said, it'll be Neil Maupay up front, I imagine. And then
Moussa Dembele looks like, or Onana looks like the actual Moussa Dembele, regeneration. He very much
I mean, he should have scored.
Moussa Dembele does everything like Moussa Dembele.
Yeah, they've just got legs. I think they will get all over Liverpool's midfield and cause them real problems. So it will be really interesting to see. It's just whether Everton can score a goal, be it from a set piece. We know that's, they'll be dangerous. Why are you shaking your head?
Because they're rubbish going forward. But they
can score from a set piece.
Yeah, they went down to 10 men when Neil Maupay came onto the pitch.
I mean, Damari Gray's played up front before, hasn't he? He's done that before, but he's not the strongest.
We're talking about Damari Gray being the hope against Liverpool.
He scored some good goals.
I mean, Liverpool are looking for any hope themselves as well. Any player should be the hope for them too. So
yeah. That's all. Oh, my prediction. I think I'm going to go 1-1 and hope Dyche can pull something out and let Liverpool go into free fall. Do you think, actually, could you see Klopp leaving?
If there is a break, it will be because Klopp wants out. I don't think Liverpool are ever going to sack him, and I don't think they should. But it's a poor year for the reason. I mean, this is it. I think we talked about this last week. The Champions League sides this year have struggled. Right, City aren't as good as they were. Liverpool and Chelsea are mid-table, and we, weirdly enough, are pretty much where we are at fifth. So it's an odd one, but if Liverpool, we've seen it in the comments. If Liverpool sort out their midfield, then next season they should be fine. But they're aging in the same way that City are. So both those teams are on kind of the downward trend of whatever their value's going to look like. I think if Klopp goes, it's because he wants to, nothing else. Liverpool, I mean, yeah, we didn't think Chelsea would sack Tuchel, but if Liverpool get new owners, I don't think they would be stupid enough to sack Klopp. Klopp is Liverpool right now.
Is it a bit
feels
similar
like
to
this is
Wenger?
about
Is
the
Klopp
time.
kind of like Wenger, where he is kind of like, you know, that he's essentially built
Different
kind
because
of-
Wenger didn't want to leave Arsenal. Eventually they had to move him on. I think with Klopp, like this is about the time with Mainz, was it,
where
and
he might
Dortmund,
want to leave.
that he stepped down, but it felt very different then. It was kind of like him holding his hand up and being like, I don't know if I'm still the best solution for us. I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
Whereas at Liverpool, he's got this angry kind of defensive thing going on. It's not like charming Klopp leaving with a lot of love. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he'll try and rebuild this squad one more time.
I mean,
I agree. I
feels
think there's a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, and managers, if they're going to go, they will want to go somewhere else. And where is Klopp going to go? Like I've got this a lot over the years. Like Klopp, like I think there's a chance that Nagelsmann gets sacked at Bayern in the summer, and that Bayern will want a new manager. But I just don't think Klopp is going to Bayern, right? So that's not his type of team. Like weirdly enough, I always envisioned that Klopp would be the guy that took Napoli to the title. Because that's the kind of city that Klopp works in, and that they're going to do it with someone else feels a bit weird. But yeah, I think Klopp and Liverpool, that they do just kind of get each other. They really do.
Sooner see Klopp take over Union Berlin, when they're,
that would be great.
Yeah.
I could see him
In
at like
fact,
a
that actually
Roman.
seems like his dream club. He would never have to talk about finances. Gets to brag about playing within his means. Gets to be for a real sort of cult fan base that would support him through thick and thin. In fact, he's almost dying to be the Union Berlin coach, I imagine. That's true.
The other thought is Atletico.
Politics. He gets to talk politics in press conferences.
If Simeone's if Simeone's leaving Atletico, do they go down a complete 180 and bring in a Klopp? Because that's like the other place. It's Italy or Spain that he hasn't kind of done yet.
Whether he's willing to learn Italian and go through all that is another thing too, because of course Germany I think would welcome him back, and be happy to have him back. And then also he's had, he's lived in England a very long time, so maybe he might just want another job in England. You never know.
Okay. Yeah, I think if he goes to Germany, it's probably almost certainly to go back to Dortmund.
Yeah.
I don't really see him anywhere else. Like I think where he's from, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's from an area that's kind of south, more towards Stuttgart. But I don't think he's going to go there either. So I don't know. But it's the same with players. Like after a while, where do you see managers moving? I don't see it anymore. We saw when Nagelsmann was at Leipzig that we thought there were options. But I don't think so anymore. Ten Hag is pretty much set at Man United. You'd imagine Guardiola is going to stay at City. If you quit, you're going to be out of work for a year, or at least until another job that you might want becomes available. And I don't think that's
Okay. I've been liking a few questions as we go along, so I'll put those up in a minute. Just want to bring this one up. So obviously we know Harry Kane's overtaken Jimmy Greaves' goals total for Spurs. This is top flight goals in England since World War II. Jimmy Greaves is only 157 ahead, and that's with the year he spent in Milan as well. Do we think he can overtake Tony Cotti this season? Another 14 goals, HG, or 15 goals? We've got 16 games left.
So 16 games, 14. Yes. I think he can, considering that we've got our players are fit. I mean, I said that we've lost 2 days, but I think that if he stays fit, he can do it. Absolutely.
That would put him at 28, 29 goals for the season. He scored another 14.
Crazy amount.
Which is that feels about the kind of season he's having, a kind of 25 to 30 goal season. So yeah, it's not a crazy thought. And I think we need him to, if we're gonna achieve the things we want to do and make top 4. I think we need another at least 14 goals from him.
He's on 17 league goals this season.
So what,
22
30,
games.
Was that 31?
Yeah.
14 would be 31. So yeah.
Yep.
And he still won't win the Golden Boot, which is astronomical, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
Imagine how many he would have scored at City. honestly, imagine how many goals he would have scored. He would have passed Rooney already.
Depends how they play. Because they're not playing to Haaland. I know Haaland's a different beast, but they're not playing to Haaland's strengths at the moment.
I think they're trying to, but they don't know how.
They didn't last week. All they do is play the ball over the top. He'd have probably scored a hat-trick against us.
I tell you what, like if Kane was at City, Haaland would have even more goals. That's the key point there. Like, not that Kane would have more, but like Haaland would have much more. If they played 4-4-2 and it's Kane and Haaland, Kane is just spending, like, he might take the penalties, right? But that will be about it. Like, looking at that list, who the heck is Ronnie Allen? Who did he play
for West Brom? I'm sure he played for West Brom.
I've never heard that name, but to score that many goals in the top flight, did Ronnie Allen go his whole career without winning a trophy or something? Is he the Harry Kane of his era?
He did play for West Brom. Right, okay, I tell you, he played from Port Vale from 1946 to 50, 34 goals in 123 games. From 1950 to 61, he played for West Brom. I'm quite chuffed I got that one right. 208 goals in 415, and 61-65 he played for Palace, 34 goals in 100 games.
But did he win anything? Did he win anything with West Brom?
Got 5 caps for England. He also played for Los Angeles Wolves in 1967. Random. Also, he managed them. Sorry, and he managed Sporting Lisbon and Atletico Bilbao and Saudi Arabia.
I've literally never heard his name. That's crazy to score that.
I'm
also surprised. I'm surprised that Tony Cottee scored that many. That's a lot of goals. I know Tony Cottee
scored his 100th goal against Spurs, didn't he? For Everton. His 100th goal. He scored his first goal in the league in '83 against Spurs.
But again, like a 100th goal for Everton, that means he scored 114 post-Everton? Even
No. He scored his 100th top-flight goal while he was at Everton, and it was against Spurs.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So that means 114 after that one. To me, Everton was like the big move he got when he left West Ham.
Have a look.
Like, did he really? I'm amazed that he scored that many because I remember him going to Everton.
He scored 92
really
for West Ham.
Yeah.
70. That's the first time. 72 for Everton, and then another 23 for West Ham, and then 27 for Leicester.
Yeah, Tony Cottee, hats off to you. But yeah, did he win any trophies to score that many goals? I mean, because this is it. Like if like Kane, looking at this list, is Kane the only person? Like, it's just funny. It's just
he
funny.
won the League Cup. He won the League Cup at Leicester, didn't he?
At Leicester,
yeah.
So right of his career, he was like a sub and managed to win something. Yeah. Well done, Tony. But it's interesting. Like, goals doesn't mean trophies. Like, that list shows it. If three of those 10 players didn't win that much, then it's not just a modern thing, is it?
I think it's interesting if you look at like Jimmy Greaves right at the top, 357 goals he played 530 league matches, I think it was. I'm going to Google it. That's a goal rate of like 0.68 to 0.7, something like that. Yeah. Harry's is 0.63. So if he plays a similar number of games, he's going to be right up there in that kind of top 3 ranking.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy given the pitches that Jimmy Greaves played on. He obviously became an alcoholic as well. Yeah,
and he started playing at 17 or 18 in the top flight as well. I mean, that number is insane. To be 70 ahead of anyone else, 70, like 20% of your total ahead of anyone else. And Shearer was an incredible goal scorer. Like,
when you were if anybody watched like the Spurs' 1 through 267, did anybody just like when they reached like 140 just goes like, geez, like 140 is a lot of goals. You just start to get like tired of like that many goals. Like, imagine 350. Imagine watching a compilation of 350 goals. Like,
unfortunately, sadly, that there's so many games where he scored magnificent goals, and there's no footage.
But even I like gave up like on that compilation with Spurs. I was just like, this is way too many goals. Like, this is just too many. Like,
isn't
this
it 44
is just too
minutes?
big a number. Like, I was like, I genuinely realized. I was like, I realized, wow, 150 is a huge number, and I still have 100 more to go. And it's like with Greaves, it's like, I just couldn't even imagine watching a compilation of 1 through 357. That's silly.
Yeah.
Right, quick fire. I'm going to race through these. So I'm not sure JP's got children to attend to and stuff. And I've still got 1,000 steps to do before midnight. You know, I can't lose my watch streak. Anyway, so Jacko didn't even know the Super Bowl was on, as I saw in his comments.
remind me
HG,
who's
you
in it.
are HG, you are an NFL expert. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
The Eagles to win it, but I don't think they will. I think the Chiefs will, sadly.
My sister lives in Philadelphia, so yeah, let's go Eagles.
Okay, guys, what do you think about Diamonde, the Lyon centre back? Jack?
I know a guy named Lukeba who's not Diomande, but I do know a guy named Lukeba, left-sided center back. Maybe we could take a look at him. So that's what I would counter with. Lukeba over at Lyon is nice. He's a good player.
HG, any knowledge?
Never
On
heard
Lyon
the name
centre back, no?
before. I feel bad now.
Okay.
I should know this, but I've never heard that name. Sorry.
Okay. And Sam, who was, interested in our rooms earlier, wants to know our thoughts on Danjuma. Obviously, we've only seen 5 minutes of him, but are we excited by this signing, JP?
I think he can be an important player for us. I don't expect to see much of him over the back half of the season, but I think he can be an important player, pick up 3 or 4 goals and a couple of assists.
Okay. Jack?
I like Danjuma. I think we needed a Sonny alternative and a Sonny competitor for that position. He had a great Champions League campaign last season. I don't really know what went wrong at Villarreal, but he did have a really good debut campaign last season. If we got anywhere close to the player that he was last year, I think he's not a bad coup at all. I also like the celebration.
HG?
So I was reading up on Diamond. Danjuma, hopeful that he can prove something in the chances he gets. I mean, you wanted to have a better option down the left. I think he's going to be it, but I'm not expecting a great deal. It's all about how many chances he gets.
What do the panel think about Pep's comments about Levy? I mean, boo-hoo, poor old Pep and his $1 million they've spent and had money paid in this way and that way. Poor old Levy being a snitch. I'm a bit disappointed. I said it on Twitter earlier. He didn't say snitches get stitches or something, but
I feel like it was an opportunity for Levy to play like the "Why Are You So Obsessed With Me" song, or like something like that, because it really, I don't know, it is a bit bold of Pep, and also it just shows that he's still quite salty about the Harry Kane, thing. That's what.
Oh yeah.
Pep needs to learn his lesson about making comments about Tottenham. Like, he was the Harry Kane team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They haven't beaten us since then. Well, they have beaten us, not at home.
Scored against us
It's
at
still
home.
been sweaty for them.
They actually definitely slapped us up a couple of weeks ago. But he just needs to focus on his own thing. He only talks when he's losing, and he just needs to sit down, shut up, and figure out his own team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to Levy's comeback. That will be like, well, I wonder if Pep can win without lots of money or Lionel Messi.
Yeah,
Because it's a question that everyone else has, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I think Guardiola's a really good manager, but to name drop Daniel Levy, is that because he doesn't know any others? It may well be, but no, it's deflection and it's ridiculous, but it's just funny.
it's a bit like Brady leaving the Patriots. Like, oh, it was the player all along, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I've just got one thing. This has been in the slideshow for ages, but I've just not used it. I don't know if you've heard this. There is a new James Bond. Do you want to see a picture? Yeah.
I'm waiting
Michael
for a
Richards.
joke here.
Oh.
I think we can categorically agree there is zero chance of Caller being called up to play James Bond.
But I'm not sure Calder would agree, but the rest of us can. Yeah, we can
the
all
rest of
agree
us.
that.
I mean, he's got to lay off the gin and go for the martinis. So I don't know if he can give it up.
Wow. Yeah, there is. More doubtful. Looks too. I mean, he's always ill, King. He has got COVID, admittedly, at the moment, but
Does he like the martini though? Because he's more of a fan of the, or he does like gin. So I guess
he does like gin. He does like a beer as well. So
yeah, he likes alcohol. I mean, it's an alcohol thing. Like, I don't. I think he's not going to turn it down if you say, yeah.
It's a martini. No, I don't drink those.
Can't play Jason Bourne, but you could play James Bond.
Yeah. So, HG, what's the plan for the weekend? You finishing off the kitchen or?
No, I mean like the plan. Because the thing is, I've had the week off work, which has been good for the kitchen, but it means I've had a 6-year-old who's off school under our feet the whole time. So it's taken a bit longer to get other things done. But the plan for the weekend, I'm going to watch Spurs tomorrow. That's the big thing. I want to have a whole day of football tomorrow, and then I guess getting ready for school again on Monday. But yeah, nothing major. Just trying to. My daughter, who I love so much, just trying to get her to go somewhere. Or like her friends have got COVID, so we've kind of been stuck with her.
Oh.
But that's an awful thing to say about your own kid. I love her to death, but you know, I couldn't handle a week with cooler. You know, we've been living in one room while the kitchen's been going on. It's been rough, one. But yeah, Spurs, my Spurs, and then the Super Bowl.
Of course. JP, I take it you won't be up watching the game, or are you going to get up at silly o'clock?
Probably not going to get up at silly o'clock. I might get up at a little bit earlier o'clock and watch it on replay, watch it blind. But yeah, I think I've got some other priorities for Monday that might take my priorities.
And Jack, what's your plans? Your good lady's left you for the weekend, isn't she?
Yeah, the missus is left for the weekend. She was also unaware that the Super Bowl was taking place. She's left to go skiing with some friends. I'm going to try to find some hipster place this Sunday that has also forgotten that the Super Bowl is happening this weekend. And I imagine actually living in Brooklyn, that will actually be quite easy to find some hipster place where everybody else is, you know, cowering away from not watching the Super Bowl. So I bet I'll be okay. Whereas if I were in like Texas or if I were in like Boston or something like that, that would be very hard. You know, I would have already known the Super Bowl was happening weeks ago if I was living over there. So maybe that even shows that I had no idea it was happening because of where I live.
It's a fixed date though, isn't it, Jack? So you could have known really about a year ago when it was happening.
But I haven't like watched a Super Bowl in about 3 or 4 years. Like I haven't genuinely watched one in like 3 or 4 years. So I think that's where you start to forget.
Show, like Rihanna's the halftime show this year.
I love Rihanna, so I might just tune in just for that part if I can. I do love that.
This is it.
It'll be on YouTube afterwards.
Then the moment the football comes back on, I'll turn it off.
Work's having a Rihanna party, so we're going to turn it on for the Rihanna concert, and then probably turn it off after that.
But I am excited to see like what sort of venue or what sort of restaurant or what sort of pub or anything like ends up being like very packed full of people that aren't watching the Super Bowl. It's like the people who end up going to the movie theater when Christmas was on, and it would be like that sort of thing in America for sure.
It's like during the World Cup, which pubs around you locally aren't showing the football because there's always that group of people who don't want to watch the football.
Yeah,
so it's the same thing.
Very similar.
Of course, JP, you'll be at work during the Super Bowl. I hadn't thought of that.
I will be. Yep. I usually have it on one of my monitors, just check the scores, but I'm not much interested in it this year.
Explains why Cameron's not happy about it. He does love his sport, doesn't he, Cameron?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Pretty much, yeah.
Anyway,
loves it. Anything to do with a ball, he'll be about it.
I've got a bit of a... Oh, where am I going? A little bit of housekeeping too. So there'll be a pod coming out after the Leicester game, but Franco and Brendan didn't sync their calendars very well, and they're both away. So we have a special guest hosting the pod that I'm not allowed to talk about. There will be a different host. A blast from the past is all I can say. So that'll be out Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure when they're recording it. Next week,
it's being recorded tomorrow night. It's being recorded Saturday night because I might be on it.
Cool. Oh, okay, good. Okay, you've not been on one for a while, have you? So that's quite a good one. Next week we've got so many shows. So Monday night we'll have a show at 9:00, which will be reviewing the Leicester game and previewing the AC Milan game. Tuesday we'll be back here at 10:00 doing an instant reaction show after the Milan game. Obviously, if the game gets delayed, we'll be a bit later. Wednesday night we are doing our account show. Steve Diver, as long as he survives Milan, will be here with the caller and a couple of other people to look at the accounts in more in-depth analysis than we did. And of course, Friday we'll be back next week previewing the West Ham game. So yeah, that's all the housekeeping. Please do like, subscribe. If you want to join Patreon, the link's at the bottom there. Patreon.com/The Cheese Room Podcast.
Save yourself some money.
Follow us on the socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're not on MySpace, are we? Is that even a thing anymore, MySpace?
No, don't think
Probably
so.
not.
All musicians are on it, aren't they?
TikTok.
I don't know.
If you want to see a TikTok channel, not going to happen. But yeah.
Yeah. But
Might
on
be a
that
job
note,
for yours.
I'm going to say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Microphone up.